Hello and welcome to Aging Matters. This is a program that's presented and sponsored by the Berks County Area Agency on Aging. My name is Ann Barlet. I'm Public Advocacy and Outreach Manager for the agency. Our topic this evening is on HIV and the aging population. And my guest this evening is Michelle Jones. She is an RN and a Care Services Manager for Co-County Wellness Services here in Reading. Thank you so much for Michelle for being my guest this evening. I think it's going to be a great topic. Some really interesting things that we've talked about ahead of time, and I think that I'm anxious to share it with the viewing audience. One of the things I did want to mention is that Co-County Wellness Services just had an anniversary. Michelle, it was how many years? 30-year anniversary that the organization has been around and existed and has done much over these 30 years for folks, and congratulations on that anniversary. Also, just 2 days ago, December 1st, was World AIDS Day. And I know there's a lot of different activities that go on that day, so I think it's really appropriate that we talk about this topic of HIV and the aging population at this time. So I want to start right off. Since they've been around 30 years, and we know that the HIV and AIDS has been around, obviously, as long, if not longer. And so let's go back, but quickly wind that up to date. So if you can take me back, what did we see back, let's say 30 years ago, approximately, Michelle? What were we seeing then? And kind of take me through a timeline a little bit to bring us up to date as to where we are today with HIV and AIDS.
Well, we were seeing a lot of people dying. We were seeing something brand new, a new plague, and didn't even have a name for a while. It changed its name a couple of times. There was very little to treat it up until 1987 when AZT hit the market, which was very inadequate, but all we had. And as things moved along and medicines became better, we hit 1996 and we added more medicines. Instead of people taking a whole slew of maybe one or two, we added what they called the cocktail and protease inhibitors, which are one classification of HIV medicines. And once the protease hit the market, once the protease inhibitors hit, we saw the disease become much more manageable. Medicine further refined through the years up until now, where we have one pill once a day with maybe all three types of pills in one pill.
Okay, so we certainly have seen a lot of, obviously through that, with you said deaths, I think that's what took us by storm, in that so many people were dying. When we said World AIDS Day, it was worldwide, so it was everywhere. And bringing that up and knowing the big piece that was education, wasn't it? I mean, and we're still probably educating folks today, but the trends have changed, things have changed in terms of what we need to talk about, or maybe not. Maybe it's still the same educational piece, but we're educating different types of folks or many ages of individuals, which is what I wanted to talk about with the aging group. What always comes to mind to me when you talked about the medicines, when you mentioned that and how those have changed, and that we're having a lot, we're also seeing that folks, once we got some of those meds and some of the, as you mentioned, cocktails and things change, people will now living longer, weren't they?
Yes.
The one that comes to my mind is Magic Johnson.
Yes.
And I just see that and think about that and how started seeing everybody dying in death and then life and being able to live.
There was a lot of fear and stigma back in those days, and that's slowly dissipating. But Magic Johnson is an example of someone who not only can live with the virus, but actually thrive with the virus.
Okay, all righty. So let's talk about today. A little bit more about where we are today, what Co-County Wellness Services are seeing, what's happening out there today, either things that might be the same, things that are new, things that are old, reoccurring?
Well, unfortunately, we still, even in this day where people are living longer and it's not a death sentence anymore, doesn't have to be, it could be, but it does not, it no longer has to be, we still unfortunately see new diagnoses, and we unfortunately see people being diagnosed late, you know, in end-stage HIV disease.
Okay.
It's just baffling to the mind with everything on the internet, and you know, we live in a very high-tech world, and yet people are still becoming infected, so we still are seeing that.
Okay. Do you think that we've become complacent in that? Are we not doing as much education? Are we educating different age groups that we're missing other age groups? What do you think?
I think we're attempting to keep the education on full throttle. It's just that now word of mouth is very powerful, and you know, people can have HIV, take 1 pill a day, and it's seen as, oh, that's no big deal. You know, if I get this, it's not going to kill me anymore. So, you know, why worry myself crazy? And, you know, I still want to have fun or do what I want to do, because the worst thing that can happen is I'm on a pill once a day. But the complacency, you know, is also surrounding, you shouldn't, people maybe are taking it lightly about taking a pill because those medicines have long-term ramifications, like any medicine. So better to not be having to take a medicine if you don't.
Okay. Is there still, you mentioned, so if I get that, you know, they know that there's a medicine. There was such stigma also, I think, created out of the initial phases of the disease. Is that still going on? Are we still, you know, more folks have come out like Magic Johnson. So is there that much still, or is it still the stigma of people, behaviors?
I wish I could say that stigma has been eliminated. Stigma still exists, but it seems to be declining some with education and with the, you know, more people being exposed to all this information, and people who have HIV. I see the stigma even at work with people's families. People that when fear can make people very dangerous and make them aggressive and not so kind all the time, and we have reduced the fear somewhat in being able to treat this and knowing how it's transmitted. Early, going back to your original question, early in the 80s, people didn't really know how this was happening. Now at least we have a handle on how it's transmitted.
So why don't we mention that right now? Let's review that again. How is it transmitted?
Through blood and body fluids, specifically sexual secretions, vaginal fluid, semen, breast milk, and IV drug use. It's the blood and sexual intercourse.
Okay, so that hasn't really changed either. So our behaviors and our situations are still the piece of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So as we've continue to educate folks and still have some of the stigma surrounding it, you were saying complacency that, oh yeah, I can take this 1 pill. I wonder if, I still think that there's still a segment, and maybe it is those of us aging, all of us are aging, but those of us are a little older in the aging process. Is it that are we complacent, or are we? And I'll go back, because I've been there in terms of these 30 years, and we're certainly well aware of that back then, and more heightened awareness. And is it because we thought it was only back then in those years? Because we're not hearing a whole lot now? So did it, you know, we know it didn't go away, but we're not hearing. Is it that we think of younger folks and not older folks? What's happening there? I mean, does that make sense?
I think that human nature kind of wants us to, or compels us to say it's those people, and that's not going to happen to me. And maybe in persons as we get older. I think we talked about this before, in people that are newly divorced or widowed and starting out in the dating game again. They may have been with one partner their entire lives up to that point. I'm not saying that in every case, but many people may have. And if so, they may not think to or just really pay attention to the risks, because they may not feel that they're in the category of persons that may be infected with this virus.
I think, I guess I think that it doesn't seem to come up in conversation, and I don't think it ever necessarily casually came up in conversation, whether it's HIV, the transmission, whatever, but we talk a lot more about conditions naturally, though, as you're older, and that doesn't seem to be a condition, a chronic condition, although it is, it tends not to come up. We can talk about anything from, arthritis is acting up, to people who may have a bronchitis, or knee issues, or some minor heart attacks, and those I'm talking younger seniors too, and typically our agency says 60 and up, but I'm not limiting to that, but we tend to talk about that more, those chronic conditions, and I don't know why. Again, like, I just keep thinking, is it out of sight, out of mind, or we just, again, is it we still don't bring that up in conversation, or we don't think we are
I think there does
exposed.
There does tend to be a discomfort for many people discussing sexual issues with their healthcare provider.
You mentioned the changes in the medications, the changes in going from several different one medicine to several different medicines to medicine now. Do you want to talk a little bit about advances in the HIV medicine, and anything else about that we could know about?
Well, there is a word called PrEP. It's an HIV buzzword now. It's pre-exposure prophylaxis is what it stands for. And so now we not only have medicines to treat HIV, one of those medicines, namely Truvada, that's the name of the medicine, can actually prevent HIV. There's been a lot of studies done on it. So in people that are engaging in high-risk behaviors, or in the case of somebody who's positive, who's with someone negative, called a serodiscordant couple, they might want to protect their partner, or the partner may want to protect themselves. There's now a medicine you can take to make it much safer, lessen your chances a great deal.
Okay. And that's, again, just like one medicine, a routine,
one pill
like
once
a daily
day
kind of thing?
And there's, it needs to be prescribed by your physician, and there is a protocol with it.
So again, it requires the knowledge,
the information, yes.
and the openness of discussing,
yes,
with your physician or the other healthcare team that's in the office, as far as, hey, this is going on, and this is, and seeking that out. Okay, so we have to get over, I guess, that fear, or
that's definitely a hurdle for a lot of people.
Okay, alrighty. Anything else on any other meds, other than this PrEP? And
well, there has been a brand new HIV medicine recently released. I believe it was November 6th, called Genvoya.
Okay. Genvoya. Okay.
Yes, released by Gilead, who has manufactured most of the one pill once a day regimens, and this is just their latest and greatest, where they have refined one of the drugs in their former drug Stribild.
And I'm sure a lot of that has come about because of, we all know medicines have side effects, and some of the good side effects that you want. You get a headache, you take a pill, the headache goes away. That's the good effect of the medicine. But there are a lot of negative side effects with general medicines, and I'm sure that's no different. And then mixing medicines, the HIV medicines, with other regular routine medicines that we take, certainly is something that I'm glad that research continued to look into that and look for ongoing and good medicines to work with that. let's talk about, this is aging. You know, our show is aging and aging population. So let's get back to those kinds of situations with adults. You know, whether it's 55 and older, 60 and older, whatever. What do we need in aging to be thinking about? What kind of issues are out there? You mentioned one about maybe there's a situation where a newly divorced couple, the individuals are off seeking other companions, so potentially putting themselves at risk. Again, you know, why? I mean, what's going on there?
Well, I think that, like I said before, they're new to the dating world again, and times have changed. And they may not be reading up. They may not have had interest in what's, you know, new in HIV prevention. They were busy with other parts of their lives. I wanted to mention, too, in regard to aging and the medicines, that and comorbidities or many other diseases that people might have, such as diabetes or heart disease. These can be worsened by HIV, or they can be also worsened by some of the medicines. So as we grow older, your body gets wear and tear as it goes along, but when you have HIV and then you add some of these other conditions, it's even more important to be very proactive in taking care of your body.
How does that work? Does it make the condition move swifter? What's the relationship there?
HIV tends to accelerate aging because scientifically they've found that there's an underlying low-grade inflammation, especially with chronic viral illnesses, which HIV is one. So there is this chronic state of inflammation which causes the body's organs to be stressed.
Okay.
It causes, you know, more aches and pains. And then when we're taking, you know, regimens that are powerful to combat the HIV, they have side effects that also can wear and tear on the liver. You know, they can raise lipid levels. People can end up with higher cholesterol, things like that, that often we see as people age to begin with. So we're adding on to it. It's additive stress. And therefore, especially in my caseload where I have people that are getting older, and I don't want to say that's old, but you know, as we live longer, it's kind of like middle age, but I stress the importance of good health maintenance. And I like to use the analogy of an automobile or some kind of vehicle that, you know, if you don't take it and get the oil changed and you don't have routine maintenance, your car is going to break down. And we get a lot of wear and tear on our vehicles, and then there's climate. So you can liken that to what happens throughout the course of HIV disease, and know that you really have to take extra good care of your vehicle, your body.
So your body, you obviously want to have your regular routines, so nothing has changed. Your regular routine with your physician or physicians that you have, get those appropriate screenings or tests, you know, maintain, again, the healthy eating and everything that coincides with just healthy aging, then add conditions, add medicine, and so on from there. I think that we wanted to talk a little bit about, again, I would like to go back a little bit about the barriers. We were talking earlier about barriers of, go into that a little bit more. You started with the couple with, you know, each seeking new partners. They're looking for a new partner.
Well, another barrier might be that now that they're past the age of childbearing, people might have used condoms in the past to prevent pregnancy. With that fear gone, and if they're not really concerned or it's not coming into their mind about getting, you know, an STD,
they may no longer be able to have children, so
it's less likely that it might be less likely that they use a condom, because that's one less fear.
Okay.
So that's kind of a big one. The other thing is in the natural changes. Maybe older men with hormonal changes, with aging, the sex drive can change, and many men may seek out to get a script for Viagra or Cialis for erectile dysfunction and things like that. if people get prostate problems or things, and it leads into, they might need these drugs and ask their doctor. And when that happens, they might see this increase in their sex drive, their sex life, and so they're having more sex. So if they're not taking precautions, that would increase their chances of getting not only HIV, but other sexually transmitted diseases.
And we have to certainly remember that as well. So where do we go, I guess, from here? We need to always be up to date. We need to always be educated, no matter what's going on, in terms of healthy bodies and healthy mind, and then look at our lifestyle always, no matter what age. But I guess what's happening in terms of what you're seeing for now and maybe the future. What should we be really thinking about, considering, or changes that they're working on even to improve situations or settings, or what can we do?
I think it's important to have individual accountability. So, if we're trying to care for ourselves, we're going to try to educate ourselves. We also are accountable to our families and our community. So we want to, as much as possible, try to seek out education and share education with each other. I get upset if I don't learn at least something new every day. And that's just me, but people have different levels of curiosity and, desires for knowledge. But knowledge is power. And if you're not knowledgeable about something, you tend to have more fears, more belief in myth or misconceptions, and that's a dangerous thing. Fear is very dangerous, and
or even just awareness. I mean, if you don't know, then hey, it doesn't happen, it doesn't exist, and I can ignore it.
Yes.
I note that you share with me, and I wanted to share with the folks, the viewing audience. You had some statistics, couple of quick statistics for us, because we're talking about the aging population. Can you share that with us?
Yes, it's estimated that about 25% of persons living with HIV in the United States are 55 years and above. That's pretty significant. And I think it's 21% of new infections are above the age of 50.
Okay. So it's still out there.
It's
still the same behaviors that have existed in the past of a way that we can contract HIV, and we need to educate ourselves. It's never too late. There are some obviously prevention methods that we can take to not put ourselves at risk, and be mindful that when we're talking age, there's no discrimination for somebody aging in that situation, whether it's somebody who is currently HIV positive and living with it, that needs to also be mindful of their health, or those older folks that are also, whatever other reasons, back out there and looking and really moving forward and consciously, educationally. And in one quick minute, if you have anything that you'd like to emphasize or say to make sure that we don't miss it, what would you share with us, Michelle?
If anybody watching tonight is concerned that they might be at risk, or if they're living with HIV and very afraid to tell anyone or need services, please come visit us down at Cook County Wellness Services on Walnut Street in Reading, because we would really love to help you and serve you. And
I think we can share that graphic on the screen that gives us the Cook County Wellness Services address and the phone number, and that would be 610-375-6523. And I'm sure they can talk to anybody, but they could also ask for you, Michelle?
They could, yes.
All righty. Well, thank you so much for being here with me this evening, sharing some information.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so pleased that also, I guess it's a good and bad that Cook County Wellness Services has had 30 years, but hopefully it would have been nice had they not been necessary because of the situation that had come about and that we're still with in terms of HIV. And again, to be mindful, to call for more information to the Cook County Wellness Services, and be mindful as we are aging of the trends and changes, medicines, and health prevention out there for everybody. So thanks for tuning in. Good night.